Valley Electric has been around for quite some time, since 1965. And I want to talk a bit about Valley Electric from the perspective of government. And one of my focuses is going to be, if government has to follow the law, and you as citizens have to follow the law that's written by the government, does Valley Electric have to follow any law? And you might be surprised at what we know. So with that, and now we're going to talk a little about Valley Electric. How does Valley Electric get structured? The way Valley Electric was put together, 3 people, all it took under the law at the time was for 3 people to agree to put together a cooperative arrangement to create Valley Electric. And they did this under the law, and you can go on Valley Electric's website and you can read the document that created Valley Electric. It's on there. So we're going to talk a little about that today and kind of take a look at some of the things that affect what Valley Electric can or can't do. And just before I get to that, Valley Electric has total control over your electric power delivery, whatever that means. Now, we've never had a serious fire here in Pahrump, similar to what they had in California in recent year. And it was evidently sparked by, what a unique term, sparked by sparks from a power line igniting very dry wood materials, timber, and causing a massive, massive firefight that went on for a long, long time. And Pacific Gas and Electric has been determined to be responsible for the fact that those sparks occurred. I guess it was a transformer failure or something. Now, I don't know if you can predict when a transformer is going to fail. And I can't predict, nor I think could PG&E predict, when high winds would cause all these sparks to fly off a failing transformer and ignite the local woods. That was pure devastation. And it didn't just go on for a week. A couple of months. Imagine fighting a fire for that long. So they now have come out with, let's call them Pacific Gas and Electric, we have to refer to them as PG&E. And they have decided that if there's going to be high winds, they have the power to cut off the power to your residents in California in the area where they'll have high winds and fire danger. Which means you're going to have a blackout. And they'll give you notice, but I think, what if the winds lasted for 3 or 4 days? We got to have a plan here somewhere, folks. And if this is what PG&E can do, who says that Valley Electric wouldn't consider having to do the same thing? I mean, you get a 50-mile-an-hour wind in the middle of summer when it's hot and dry and humidity is 5 and 10%. As sparks start flying, you can't burn during the summertime. Matter of fact, the burn restriction is in effect right now. You can't do anything. And so what happens? You get a spark and it ignites the grass. These grasses are very, very fast when they take off. And they're hot when they burn. So what if Valley Electric was to decide that, hey, we got some high winds coming here, we got a fire danger, we don't want to get sued. I mean, PG&E is looking at bankruptcy to protect the company over this issue of it's their fault that the sparks, through an act of nature, ignited that wildfire. So it could happen at Valley Electric. So I wanted to talk a little about the incorporation document for Valley Electric, and that's the document, anytime a corporation is a separate entity from the individual. It's a fictional entity that is managed by the people who are on the board of directors. And that could be the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. And they manage the corporation. And it's not the intent on this show today to get into how all that works, because everybody's got a different scheme about how they want to do things, and we don't want to get into that. But I do want to talk a little about the incorporation document. So if you go on to Valley Electric and you go on to their home page, and let me see, I'll get you the drop-down menu here, where it says About Us, and then you go to Resources. Under the term Resources, you'll see it says there's a drop-down menu, and it says Articles of Incorporation. And when you click on that, you'll see what I see. Now, I've printed them out so that I don't have to fool around with using the computer on this. And the original incorporation document for Valley Electric was put together to form two corporations into one. It was the Amargosa Valley Cooperative and White Mountain Power Cooperative. And it became the Valley Electric Association Incorporated, a nonprofit corporation. And it was filed with the Secretary of State's office. So this became official public notice that the corporation existed. And in there were, I have the document here, there were 7 pages that outline how the corporation was set up. And I can tell you this, it was really interesting. You know, people say, well, it's not interesting, I don't want to read this stuff. But you should really read these things. Because in 1965 is when they decided what Valley Electric could do. And interestingly enough, Valley Electric has the power in the incorporation document to build a power generating plant of their own. More than one. They could also get into another enterprise. They could actually run a water utility for the benefit of the membership. And the way Valley Electric was set up is that everyone who buys electric power from Valley Electric is not just a member of Valley Electric, we're all a part owner of that corporation. So when you have a board of directors, we voted in a board of directors to manage our company properly for the benefit of the other owners. And they were all owners. So first thing I want to address here is, where is the principal place of business for Valley Electric? By the way, I'm going to throw the phone number out just in case somebody wants to challenge any of this. The phone number here is 775-990-4900. So the question becomes, where is the principal place of business for Valley Electric? Now, I'm going to read you what it says. This is item 4, and it's on page 5. It says the principal place of business. The principal office or place where the principal business of the corporation will be transacted is 1818 Industrial Road, Las Vegas. But this corporation may maintain an office or offices elsewhere, within or without the state of Nevada. Well, we could have offices in another state. At such places or place as the board of directors may designate, or as may be designated in the bylaws of the corporation. So that's pretty clear. It says that our principal place of business is 1818 Industrial Road, Las Vegas. That was 1965. Then, I want to get on to another thing here. So, they had written at the time, these are powers of the board of directors. And that was filed in 1965. So here it comes now in 1972. And this is also on that same page as on the website. And this was filed with the Secretary of State again. And this was a change to the bylaws. And what they did is, and we had to go through and read this a couple of times to figure out what the change was. And here's, let me just, I don't have nicotine-stained fingers, but I do have I have to get to the page because I don't have an assistant to do that for me. So what I want to do is tell you what happened and what I think is happening and why I think there's something not quite right in what we're doing. Okay, just 1 second here. I'm still looking. It's not like I have a big staff to help me out here. Let's see. Oh, I see where we put it. Okay, so here's what they did. They went in 1972 and they made an adjustment to item F. That's an F as in Frank to the incorporation document. And when we saw that, we tried to figure out what was the change, because when we read it, it looked like it was the identical wording to what was in the original document in 1965. I mean, this was only 7 years later. And when we went through it, we found that the word they removed from the document was the word mortgage under the powers of the board of directors. And in so doing, that amendment gave the board the power to have mortgages without a vote of the membership. In other words, the board of directors could decide to build buildings, all kinds of things where they could go to the bank, get a mortgage, and do just what you and I do. Okay, so they filed that amendment. Now, again, this is not a law show. And if I'm wrong, somebody can just call in and we can have a nice discussion about that. But then, this was in 1972 that they made this amendment. And so when that amendment was finished and it was recorded, I have to go to the next one here in just a second. In 1977, and again, this is on the same part of the website. In 1977, they re-recorded the document from 1965 and did not include the amendment. So what does it mean? In my opinion, what it means is this. When they file a document with the Secretary of State, the incorporation document, it tells the state and anybody who's interested what the powers of that corporation are under its filing. So when you had the original document in 65, and then in 72 you modify that portion, some portion of the document, and get it approved and send it to the state, and then you refile the original document after that without the amendment, it seems to me that the original document stands without the amendment. Now, if that's the case, if the board of directors voted to have a mortgage to build a building for whatever purposes they may have, did they have the authority to do that without a vote of the membership? I can't give you that answer, but I can think I know what the answer is, and it would be no. I'll tell you what the lawyers tell us. Oh, well, that was just sloppy paperwork handling. To me, sloppy paperwork handling is not an excuse. They have lawyers to adjust and advise them as to how things should be done. When the lawyers tell you that's just sloppy paperwork handling, what they're really telling you is, don't pay any attention to that. We'll do whatever we damn well please. And if you don't like it, too bad. A warning to anyone who listens to this. Don't speak out about it. Don't go to Valley Electric and tell them you want to see the new bylaws. Now, I bet you that's kind of caught your attention about the new bylaws, and it should. Because the original bylaws that were written in 1965 had a 50-year lifespan. I started looking at that in 2004, 2005, and I started wondering, in 50 years, when is that going to come up? Well, the 50 years came up in 2015. And I had gone to Tom Husted to see, Tom, what are we going to do about filing the incorporation papers because they're going to expire in 2015? And I had a sneaky feeling, well, let's not say sneaky feeling. I had a feeling that because of some of the things that Valley Electric had done by the board of directors, which may be criminal, you know, when you have people doing criminal things at the board of directors and the lawyer's telling them it's okay, they're still the ones doing it. I don't care what the lawyer advises them to do. If they do it under the advice of the lawyer, it doesn't let them off the hook. Sure doesn't. So I asked, what are we going to do with the new bylaws? Or are we going to just refile the old ones? What are we going to do? So I went on. So anyway, because I was asking these kind of impertinent questions of somebody who was making close to over $700,000 a year at Valley Electric, how dare me even question how this could come about, or anybody else question the finances at Valley Electric. My God, you were committing a sin, and you're not even Catholic. So some of us were not allowed to go on Valley Electric property for almost 2 years without a hearing. But I'll take you back to this. I would like to know if Valley Electric's board of directors ever signed for a mortgage after 1977. Now, probably some of those people may not be around anymore. Some may be. But you know, when I was talking earlier in the show about the rules and the laws and the way things are structured certain ways for a reason, so the public can have confidence in the way things are done. If you belong to a homeowner association and there's a problem with you have trash in your yard, they have to have a hearing, and you have an opportunity to explain your position at the hearing. And usually in many homeowner associations where they're condominiums, the association owns the buildings and you own the space inside the buildings. So when they're having a hearing, they have the right to enforce what you can do outside the building. And that's why you get a hearing. If you've been parking your vehicle in the alleyway, blocking potential fire trucks or whatever could happen, they have a right to fine you for that if it says you can't do it in the bylaws, unless there's some emergency that was taking place at the time. That's why you get to have a hearing. But everybody who pays into the homeowners association has a financial interest in it. That's not much different at Valley Electric. Everybody who buys electricity is not only a member of Valley Electric, they're an owner. And the reason you elect a board of directors is so that there's somebody who can make reasonable, rational, good decisions on behalf of the corporation. So first question I think anybody out there listening should ask is, after 2015, the year 2015, why are those incorporation documents not posted on the internet? If they're not posted, there's a problem. And I'll tell you, there's one other thing that I want to jump to this and get away from the incorporation document because I can't find it, so I can't talk any more about it because I don't believe there is one. And if they tell me I have to go to the state website to look for it and pay for it, no, it should be posted on our website. So there's another issue here that really has to come into play with Valley Electric. We have bylaws. You know, the state has laws, and I explained a little earlier about how this kind of sequence of events takes place. And nothing is perfect in my explanation. I don't ever say that it is. But I think it's a pretty good idea of how to understand what takes place. So there are two other things. There's the Nevada state law and there's the bylaws for the corporation. To me, the bylaws of the corporation are the ground level, grassroots way we operate the corporation. And when you want to know how the corporation has to operate, you look at the bylaws. When the lawyers tell you that the bylaws don't matter and that there's options in the bylaws and they'll decide what the options mean, what the wording means, something serious going on here, folks. So recently they filed petitions to remove, they wanted to move all the board of directors. But that didn't happen. But two of them resigned. And the third one up in Fish Lake Valley resigned after he lost the election anyway. So it was just a little early. So when you look at the bylaws, there's a place in state law that talks about when you have a corporation like this and you have bylaws, they have to be someplace where you can read them. And I'm going to tell you what the NRS is. It's NRS 81.470. And you can go up on the state website and you can read it. And always believes if the state puts it up on the official website that this has to be the law. NRS 81.470. And it's titled Bylaws, Adoption, Amendment, Effectiveness. And here's item 3 in that little, there's only 3 items. And it says, all bylaws in force must be copied legibly in a book called the Book of Bylaws, kept at all times for inspection in the principal office. Now, you know, when I read you the incorporation document, the principal office, according to our incorporation document, and it's never been changed, is 1818 Industrial Road. Since Valley Electric does not occupy that space anymore, and they still claim that they do by filing an incorrect and false document on the incorporation papers, they can't possibly have the Book of Bylaws at the principal place of business, because they've declared that it's at 1818 Industrial Road. And then this goes on to say that the Book of Bylaws has to be kept at all times for inspection in the principal office. Now, Gilbert Allen and I went in the day before the annual meeting to look at the Book of Bylaws at the Valley Electric office in Pahrump, because we couldn't go to Las Vegas because they don't exist there. We don't have a principal office anymore. Well, according to the incorporation, but maybe the new incorporation documents say that they've changed it. The trouble is we can't see them. They're in hiding. Okay, so after this business about this official Book of Bylaws that you can walk in and see at any time, those are the official. If you have a copy of bylaws and it doesn't agree with what's in the office, then you need to update your copy of the bylaws. And here's what it says in addition to that. Until so copied, they shall not be effective or in force. Now, what does that mean? That means if the Valley Electric management and the board of directors does not have a book called the Book of Bylaws for you to inspect when you walk in and ask to see it, they can't possibly have bylaws. We could go into a whole discussion about why that has to be in effect, but I'm telling you right now, that's state law. And if there are no bylaws, and the old incorporation document still says that the directors cannot enter into a mortgage without a vote of the membership, I'm saying there's something wrong here. Now, maybe we should be looking at who's actually been involved at Valley Electric when this took place. Well, Tom Husted was. And before Tom Husted, there was a general manager, Lou Holbeck. And they had boards of directors. As a matter of fact, I can remember one of the employees at Valley Electric decided to run for the board, and I was informed personally that he should become a member of the board because he would take good care of the employees. I didn't think that was the purpose of the board of directors. I thought following the bylaws and the state law was more important. So where exactly is the Book of Bylaws? I asked Richard Peck. I like Mr. Peck, but he doesn't know. I asked Mr. Peck, where's the current incorporation document? Why isn't it on the website along with the other documents? His answer was, I don't know. But Mr. Peck, weren't you sent here by the lenders to straighten out Valley Electric and get the ship righted again? And you don't know where these important documents are? It looks to me like you're operating without a set of bylaws. Can you do that? Can you just make up the rules as you go along if you don't have a legitimate copy of the bylaws on file, known as the Book of Bylaws? Maybe you guys don't care, but I think you should. Because now that they've set the precedent that they can tell owners of Valley Electric that they're not allowed on the property for any reason, and that if they go on the property, they'll be removed, either forcibly or politely requested to leave. That could happen to any one of the 18,000 members or groups of members. They've already set that precedent, folks. Now I want to bring something else up. If they were following the bylaws, which I believe they are not, the bylaws say that when you have any kind of voting of the members, that each member is entitled to one vote and no more. Okay, that's pretty clear. And I know some members have told me that they bought multiple memberships because they have multiple houses. Well, they still can only vote once unless their spouse maybe has a membership. Then that would be another vote that that person could have. If you haven't read the bylaws, it's kind of dry. And a lot of people don't like to read them because they don't know what's in them. And I have created an index. By the way, I have been president of an 800-unit homeowners association for a couple of years. I dissolved the homeowners association in California. I've advised 2 other homeowner associations as to how to deal with their bylaws. So I kind of know a little bit about this stuff. And I know that there ain't a set of bylaws in this country that I know of that has an index to the bylaws. So I created one. I created one for the homeowners association in Laguna Hills. And I also created one now for Valley Electric. And I think if you're going to be on a committee to study the bylaws, you should have my index. I'm willing to share it freely. All you have to do is ask. I'm going to bet dollars to donuts I'll never get a request. Now, there is one other thing in these bylaws that I wanted to talk about, and that is when we have elections. You know, when somebody tells you that you shall win by a majority of the votes cast, then you have a right to expect that if you don't get a majority of the votes, you won't be elected. So what if I told you that Valley Electric has twice put somebody into office that not get a majority of the votes? And here it is. This is Article 3, Section 5 on voting. Each person shall be limited to the vote of their own membership and one proxy vote only. And then it says, all questions shall be decided by a majority vote of the members voting thereon. Then it gives you an exception. But if you don't get a majority of the vote, there should be a runoff between the top 2 vote getters. That did not happen with Peter Gazzi. Twice. And the lawyers said, oh, we checked around with some other law firms, and they said if you don't get a majority vote, we can just give you the results and put you into office anyway. Not in my last day. And now we have 3 new board members. I hope the hell they're smarter and have more integrity than the 6 we had before. And with that, I want to thank you all for listening, coming to the end of the show here. I am a part of the Peanut Gallery, and the Peanut Gallery always had an opportunity to talk on the Howdy Doody show, and this show is no exception. Next week, I have as my guest Dwight Hunter. Dwight has written 5 books and is really knowledgeable about stuff, so hopefully tune in. Have a great week.
You're listening to your local radio.
98.1 FM, KPFD LP, Pahrumps Freedom Radio.